We're always talking about car manufacturing here in this series. But what about trucks? How are they made? The good news is that it's pretty similar to how cars are made. So if you know how cars are made, then making trucks is going to be very easy for you to understand. Hey, welcome to today's episode of All About Manufacturing. We make learning about manufacturing easy, fun, and engaging. So if you love manufacturing or you just want to learn more about how things are made, then hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. So when it comes to heavy-duty trucks, there really isn't much difference between making a truck and making a car. In fact, many car manufacturers have truck lines. For example, Ford makes the F-150, but also the Mustang and the Escape. General Motors makes the Silverado, but also the Corvette and the Malibu. And Stellantis makes the Ram 1500, but also the Pacifica and the 300. So what we'll be looking at today is how these three major companies can manufacture their popular pickup trucks, which are the best-selling vehicles in America. Now we're not going to be getting into heavy-duty trucks like the semi-trucks that are used for long-haul shipping. That's a whole different animal, and it's a very interesting process. If you'd like us to do an episode on that, let us know in the comments section below. So let's start with the body. Just like with cars, the truck body is made up of many different pieces that all need to fit together perfectly. This is why the first step in building a truck is to install the frame. The frame is the backbone of the truck, and all of the other components are attached to it. Once the frame is installed, the cab and the bed of the truck are added. These are usually assembled separately, and then they're attached to the frame. Finally, the other components of the body are installed. This includes things like the bumpers, the grille, and the lights. So with trucks, there are two main types of beds that can be installed on the frame. One is called a body-on-frame construction, and the other is called a unibody construction. Let's take a look at how each one is installed. Body-on-frame construction is the traditional method of building trucks. It's also the most durable method since the frame is separate from the body. So if there's ever any damage to the body, it can be repaired without damaging the frame. However, it's also the heavier method since you have to build the body on top of the frame. Now, this adds extra weight to the vehicle, which affects fuel economy. The first step in installing a body-on-frame construction is to attach the front and rear clips. These clips will hold the body in place while the frame is attached. Next, the cab and the bed are lowered onto the frame. They're attached to the frame using bolts. After that, the wheels are attached to the truck. Now it's time to attach the cab to the frame. The cab is lifted into place and bolted down. The same thing is done with the bed. Now it's time to add the other components of the body, such as the bumpers, the grille, and the lights. Finally, the bed is attached to the frame. This is done by bolting the bed to the cab and the rear clip. Acute body construction is becoming more popular for trucks because it's lighter than body and frame construction. This improves fuel economy. Plus, it's easier and cheaper to manufacture. A unibody truck has one frame that runs the length of the vehicle. The cab and the bed are attached directly to this frame. There's no rear clip. Instead, the bed sits directly on the frame. To attach the cab and the bed to the frame, welders use robots. Robots weld the cab and the bed to the frame. Once the robot welders are finished, other welders come in and add the finishing touches. The advantages of unibody construction are that it's lighter than body-on-frame construction and it's cheaper and easier to manufacture. The disadvantages are that it's not as durable as body-on-frame construction and repairs are more expensive. Next, the trucks go through the paint shop where they're painted the color that was chosen. The final step in the body shop is to add the trim and the decals. Once the body is complete, it moves on to the next station where the engine and the transmission are installed. Now, for heavy-duty trucks, the engine is usually installed first, followed by the transmission. However, for lighter trucks, like the F-150, the transmission is installed first, followed by the engine. This is because the engine is too heavy to lift. So instead, the transmission is lowered onto the frame, and then the engine is set into the engine bay and bolted down. Now once the engine and transmission are installed, the exhaust system is added. The exhaust system is what removes the harmful gases from the engine. Now this is done by routing the exhaust gases through a series of pipes and out of the back of the truck. Next, the fuel tank is installed. The fuel tank is what holds the gasoline or diesel that powers the truck. The fuel tank is installed under the bed of the truck. The next step is to install the suspension system. The suspension system is what connects the wheels to the frame. It also helps to absorb shocks and bumps in the road. The suspension system is made up of several different components. This includes things like springs, shock absorbers, and control arms. Once the suspension system is installed, the wheels and tires are added. Now this is done by first installing the wheels on the axle and then lowering the axle onto the suspension system. Finally, the tires are installed on the wheels. The electrical system is what powers all of the lights, the radio, and all of the other electronic components. The electrical system is very complex, and it's one of the most challenging systems to troubleshoot when something goes wrong. The first step in installing the electrical system is to run the wiring harness through the cab and the bed of the truck. The wiring harness is what houses all of the different wires that make up the electrical system. Next, the various components of the electrical system are installed. This includes things like the battery, the starter, and the alternator. Once the components are installed, the system is tested to make sure that it's working properly. The interior of the truck is what makes it comfortable and safe for the driver and passengers. It also has several different components that need to be installed just right. The first step in installing the interior is to install the seats. The seats are bolted to the floor of the cab. Next, the dashboard is installed. The dashboard is what houses all of the gauges and controls for the truck. It's also attached to the cab using bolts. Once the dashboard is installed, the steering wheel is added. The steering wheel is attached to the steering column using a spline. This is the splined connection that allows the steering wheel to turn side to side. Next, the door panels are installed. The door panels are attached to the frame of the door using clips. The final step in installing the interior is to add the trim and the decals. Once the interior is complete, the truck is ready for final assembly. Final assembly is where all of the components are brought together to make a complete truck. This is also where the truck gets its finishing touches. At this stage, all the parts that were put together in the previous stations come together. The front and rear axles are installed, along with the drive shaft and the gas tank. All of the lines and hoses are hooked up, including the brake lines, the fuel lines, and the coolant lines. The final step in the assembly process is to install the bumpers, the grille, and the lights. Thanks for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of All About Manufacturing. If you did, please hit that like button and leave us a comment in the comments section below. We'd love to hear what you thought. And do want to forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an episode.